Dr. Temple, sensory issues are a big thing with autism. Did you suffer sensory integration issues, and has it improved over the years as you became an adult?
I had very bad sensory issues. School bell would go off, felt like a dentist drill hitting a nerve. I hated balloons because you never know when they're going to pop.
One of my son is like that with the balloons. He cannot go where there are balloons. So it is the fear of when it's going to pop. The fear it's going to pop. And one of the ways to get them over that is get some balloons, blow it up really small, and he takes a pin and pops it. Where he controls it, or she controls it. And then you make it bigger where it's going to be louder, but they take the pin and pop it. You see, lots of times desensitized to loud noise. If the child can control the loud noise. Let's take a vacuum cleaner. I've talked to families where the vacuum cleaner went from the most feared, scared, horrible thing to favorite toy. When the child could turn it on and off, you see, then you know exactly when it's going to come on. Hair dryers the same way. And then what about sounds you cannot control? Dogs barking, babies crying. You could put them on a very high quality audio recording. It has to be high quality. It has to have all the frequencies in it. And the child can play it at different volumes and turn it on and off. And the child controls. See, this is the thing. Control. That is so important. Now, the big thing I'm seeing now is people wearing headphones all the time. Ear protectors. The problem is, if you wear ear protectors all the time, it will make the sound sensitivity worse. It will make it worse. So what you need to do is you have it with you all the time. You have it with you. That's control. Okay, you're going to go into the train station, super loud. You can put it on. Then when you get home, it's quiet, then you take it off. It needs to be off for at least half the day. But again, give them control where it's with you. So let's say I was in a hotel recently and the fire alarm went off 3 times one night at the hotel. That would be a time to wear the ear protectors. And you have them with you. Or they have one, they open the wrong door at the airport and you hear all these horrible alarm things. Then you put it on.
It's necessary.
Because you never know when a fire alarm or some other alarm might go off. But you see, the secret is control. Then you put on the ear protectors. Always have them with you, control. Then I had my squeezing machine that helped to calm me down. And it helped me to tolerate people hugging me because I could control it. I could control it. You see, that's the key. Giving the child control. And car horns beeping. We're going to go out to the car, and you can beep it all you want. And then you do it in the middle of the day when it's not a bother. Maybe even taking a child down to the office at the school after everybody had gone home, and you turn the bell on 50 times. That's actually worked. See, those are simple things to do once you're going to understand.
When Eric is handling the balloon himself, he has no issues.
Because he knows it's not going to pop. But when somebody else
tries, he screams. So
because he's afraid they're going to squeeze the balloon and make it pop.
Now I didn't know that.
You need to desensitize us how Dr. says. Let's just talk about your hug machine, Dr.
Well, I'm one of the kids that loved deep pressure. I would get under a sofa cushion and get my sister to sit on it. Because I liked deep pressure. I was the one that would wrap up in blankets really tight. I liked the bed really tight, and then I call it putting a letter in the envelope. And then sleep in there and it's tight. And I'm one of the kids who's a pressure seeker. Now, not all autistic kids are pressure seekers, but the deep pressure works on the pressure seekers. Now, of course, you can use things like weighted vests and things like that really inexpensive. But I watched cattle at my aunt's ranch go in the squeeze chute to hold the cattle still for getting their vaccinations. And I saw that some of the cattle kind of relaxed. So I went and tried out the cattle chute. And then I basically made a padded version of cattle squeeze chute. But I could control it. See, that is the key. And that got me to where I could tolerate hugging. You can actually desensitize. When I was a tiny baby, mother said I'd stiffen up and didn't want to be touched. Well, you know how you can get those baby pouches?
Correct. Yeah.
Let's say if a kid doesn't want to be touched, just go buy one of those baby pouches and make sure you wear the kid for quite a few hours every day.
Yes.
That's a simple thing you can do.
Yes.
And it may help on a lot of this stuff. Also, you're looking at the kid all the time.
Yeah.
So that baby, I was a really too good a baby. And stiffen up when I was held, well, those baby pouches are easy to get. That's something you can do with an infant that you think is at risk for some kind of a problem. It's going to be good for the baby. So you're going to get the vestibular stimulation. It's something you can do. It's not always going to hurt the baby.
Correct.
And I'd recommend using a commercially available pouch, or I know that there's some they make with like a sari or something. Then you have to have somebody show you how to do it absolutely right. I don't want the kid to get dropped.
I have a son who likes deep pressure. So in the sitting room, he'll be putting himself under the couch. So I bought for him a blanket.
Weighted blanket.
There's actually another one. It's not weighted, but when you get in, it squeezes you.
Okay.
Yes, it's a vestibular blanket.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that, or just a weighted blanket also can work.
Yes.
Because I'm always trying to think of things that even the most low income can do. Like the thing on the sensory desensitization, the sound. Anybody can do that. It doesn't cost anything.
Correct.
But you see, the thing is the control. You see, he's handling the balloon, it's okay. You're handling the balloon, he's afraid it might pop.
I really never understood why he freaked out.
An eye-opening moment.
Yes, it is.
That always is with Dr. Temple Grandin.
Yes.
How about diet? What all is your diet? Do autistic individuals have alcohol?
Well, one of the things I'm very concerned about is the kid who has an extremely restricted diet, is eating only one or two things. We used to study in home economics class vitamin deficiency diseases, scurvy, beriberi, plague, all these bad diseases you get from vitamin deficiencies. In the last year, I talked to a mom and her adult son got scurvy, which is vitamin C deficiency, because he was eating, and I looked up all his, he had swollen feet and stuff, and the doctor just, he looked up his diet online. And I said, that's vitamin C deficiency. Then I looked up the symptoms for scurvy. I said, I think your son has scurvy. And they put him on a vitamin C supplement, and in a couple of weeks it went away. Now the vitamin B, B is a beautiful deficiency diseases. They're worse than scurvy. And these are things you don't want to get. Get very concerned if the child's just eating like two things, getting one of those old-fashioned vitamin deficiency diseases. And there's a lot of doctors here that don't know how to diagnose those. And so I'd strongly recommend, especially if the child's diet's restricted, is to take a multiple vitamin. Just a regular multiple vitamin. That will prevent the vitamin deficiency diseases. And then how do we get the child to eat more things? Well, get them involved with food preparation. When you're in the kitchen, you can play in it. We don't play with food at the dining room table. We have to have manners. But in the kitchen, you can gush all around in it and play with it, feel it, touch it, smell it, smear it around. And sometimes that helps to get them to try some new things.
Did you ever think about it, Mercy?
No.
Such simple tips that can be, put across in the daily routine.
This is the thing, and I've been doing these talks for a lot of years.
Yes.
And I keep picking up these simple things. And I was with this mom just recently, and I said, well, what's he eat? And I looked it all up. It was like 4 things. He's way low on vitamin C.
My 2 sons had this problem of restricted diet for quite a long time. And it was really difficult even to plan food for the whole family, And
how did you get them over it?
Actually, it just improved after I did stem cell. They really improved in their diet, and they would smell the food before eating. So that really...
Well, if you have an individual that's nonverbal, they often will touch and smell things.
Yes.
And the reason for that is it's seeing the vision scrambled. There's some very good books written by people who are typing. Tito Makapadehe, How Can I Talk if My Lips Don't Move? And he describes scrambled vision. Noki, the Japanese boy, describes not being able to control his movements. And touch and smell still work accurately. See, touch and smell are simpler senses. They're much simpler senses. Just, if you look at it like it's an electronic device, much, much simpler. And touch and smell work.
Good.
Where vision's giving them scrambled information, especially when they get tired. So those are really good books to read. And then there's Noki's book, The Reason I Jump. And there's a sequel to The Reason I Jump. That's an even better book because he's older with a lot more insight.
Correct. What are the kind of therapies, doctor, that you would like to recommend?
Well, let's start with the 3-year-olds and the 2-year-olds. I already talked about what they did in my therapy. I know there's been a lot of controversy about applied behavior analysis, ABA. Well, some of the advocates that hate ABA had some very bad ABA.
Yes, correct.
Where they were forced into sensory overload, too much emphasis on just compliance, constantly making them do eye contact and causing something. That's totally bad. But you see, and there's other kinds of ABA that work fine. Correct. What I find, we're going to talk just about the little ones here, 2 to 5, just the little ones right now. I'm going to talk about. It gets down to that teacher. And some teachers have the ability and some don't. So I always ask parents when we're working with little kids, are you getting progress? I want speech, I want turn taking, and I want skills. And the kids should love going to therapy. They should love going to therapy. That's what I want out of a little kids program. Now, you have to do more than an hour of therapy a week. An hour of therapy a week is not enough.
True.
Absolutely not enough. I mean, ideally, I'd like to have 20 hours, but if you have 10 hours, but 1 hour is not enough. But let's say only 1 hour is available. Then you get the grandmothers to come in and use that professional teacher as a coach so they can do a lot more hours.
Correct.
Because 1 hour a week is enough time to coach other people. See, then as the kids get older, they kind of divide into the 3 groups of fully verbal, but to have the partially verbal, non-speaking, some can learn to type, some can't. They diverge. But then when you expose the children to lots of different things, here I'm talking 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, you want to expose them to a bunch of stuff. Art, music, sewing, cooking, woodworking, computer programming, just many different things, and see what are they attracted to. What are they good at? For me, it was art. For another kid, it might be mathematics. And I've heard some very bad stories in the last 6 months about primary age school kids, maybe 7, 8, 9, and 10 years old, that were bored in math class. And they were forcing them to just do this little baby math. They should have been given high school math books. And they just kept making them do baby math. And they turned into a great big behavior problem and got labeled oppositional demand disorder, which is complete rubbish. They should have been given advanced math books. And you can probably just find some of these old high school math books and the price is free. I just see it on the kid's desk and you let him use that algebra book that I don't understand. And that little 9-year-old is going to think that algebra book's just wonderful and just start going through it. Just give them advanced math. Don't make them do baby stuff. And there's so much good stuff online, like Khan Academy that's free, code.org for computer programming, National Geographic Citizen Science, all kinds of great stuff about space on the NASA website. There's all kinds of wonderful free stuff online, too. It's absolutely wonderful. There's tons of rubbish online. But there's also wonderful stuff online. Let's make use of it.
So that brings me to another question, doctor. You said in your last meeting that there are a lot of inventions that would not have happened if autism was not there, like Zoom. There would have been no Zoom.
Okay, you got a video camera right here taking pictures. The laptop over there, a mixing board, a monitor. None of that equipment would have existed without some autism. Because the super social people aren't interested in making a video camera. And years ago, I said, who do you think invented the first stone spear? It would have been the autistic person. Because it tinkered and tinkered and tinkered and figured out how to chip the rock into a point. You see, autism is a true continuous trait. A brain can be more social, or a brain can be more cognitive, interested in what they think about. And at what point is that abnormal? You see, in the very mild end, it's just personality variant. It isn't like tuberculosis where you either have tuberculosis or you don't have tuberculosis. It's not like that.
So I think we should shift from focusing on what they can't do to what they're able to do.
Well, this is just it. Let's build on the strength. So you have the visual thinkers. And one of the reasons why I'm pushing fixing the motorcycles is this kind of job will not get replaced by artificial intelligence. And the visual thinkers are the ones most likely to get addicted to video games.
Yes.
And designing video games, I think AI is going to take that over. Art, there's some art stuff I think will take over, but there's still going to be people wanting handmade, original things.
Yes.
Photography, people are still going to want a person taking pictures at their wedding. You know, those are places where there can be jobs. You know, look at how people, I can think of all the musicians from my generation, they're still filling stadiums. People want to see the person.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't think a hologram is going to fill one of our football stadiums.
No.
Dr. Temple, for those parents who have children who are really on the severe end.
Okay, age. Got to know the age.
Age, okay. Really, let's even look at the spectrum as they grow.
As they grow. You see when they're very little, 3 to 5, they can look really severe, you don't know. And you can want to rule out epilepsy. The real little ones, you see, I looked very severe. And the only thing that was good about me was no epilepsy.
Yes.
So, okay, so you check the little ones for epilepsy, and they can look, their behavior can be horrible, just constant rocking, screaming, everything else. But then you do therapy on those little kids. And then there's going to go into kind of levels, you know, like the ones that are fully verbal, partially verbal, nonverbal, some can type.
Yes.
But when they're real little, at 3, you don't know.
True.
You just don't know. This is why you've got to get therapy started early, which I had.
Yes. But still, there are those, even after interventions, the improvement is not so much for them to be independent.
That's right. You see, and this is where they're going to have to be in a supervised living situation. They're not going to be independent. You see, this is the problem you have with autism. You've got the same name on one person who runs a computer company. Oh, I've seen them testify in Congress. Yeah. I've seen like you, testify at a deposition in front of lawyers. Yeah. That's where they really show off their autism. And they're running great big companies.
Yes.
And then you get the ones that are definitely not going to be running computer companies.
Yeah.
Yes, not even able to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Well, you see, you have to look at, you've got kind of different levels there. We have to look at what they can do, because I'm seeing too many high level like me that never live independently and never learn any life skills. I was shopping at age 8 by myself. I was learning to save money at that same age. Doing laundry. When I was in high school, we did a trip into town every week and we did laundry and we did shopping with little bits of money we had.
So parents play a very important role.
Parents, there's a tendency, okay, they hear the term autism, they think they've got to order the teenagers food for them. I'm seeing that all the time. Now, even with ones that are nonverbal, can sometimes do more than you think they can do. They're going to have to live what they call 24/7, where they're supervised all the time. I've been to some very good places that people go. And there are some very good places, also bad places. And then there's situations where one that does need supervision is living at home, and then what happens when the parents get old?
Exactly.
That is that's a very big problem.
And even the biggest fear for parents who have children who are not independent is what will happen when they die.
That's right.
And like in Africa, like in my country, we do not have any government services. We do not have like those assisted homes. That's completely new. It's maybe the parents who should start thinking of how to design. Like here in America, I see parents who have come up with, the assisted homes. But like for us in Africa, it's you.
It starts off, what I found is that parents drive it, parent organizations, because I went to autism groups in the early 80s. And the parents' groups were driving the change. And then getting together and maybe building it. Ruth Sullivan. She's one of the very early people. She had a son that required supervision all the time. And she was, I remember her doing a talk to other parents and telling about how they've got to make these things happen.
Rick, he's always saying he wants to be a pilot. Here he's a professor.
Yes.
So,
well, and the thing is, I wanted to work on designing spaceships originally. I couldn't do the math, so I majored in psychology. And then I ended up working on mechanical equipment. And you don't have to have, a degree to work on mechanical. Now, what attracts them to being a pilot?
I don't know.
Yeah, you see, the thing is, one thing that could be a problem with a pilot is discrimination.
Yes.
And there can be some very bad discrimination. Now, I've looked at a lot of pilots. I've seen some autistic.
Yes. So, in fact, I keep, because he talks about it all the time, I try to make him divert from there. But
now, what is when I talk about the different minds, do you think he is a visual thinker like me? Is he good with mechanical things? Could he fix a motorcycle?
I don't know.
Fix a motorcycle, he can fix a plane.
But he likes doing things. He can read and write. He's in school.
Is he reading it, doing grade level reading and writing?
Not really grade level, just average.
Just average.
Yes, and considering that he missed because he made improvements in school when he was, let's say, 5 years. So the early years he missed the normal curriculum of baby class. So he skipped some of those. When he became much better, then he joined his age groups instead of.
Okay.
Yes.
And he's how old now?
He's 12.
He's 12.
Yes. But if you ask him, what do you want to be? He'll just tell you, I want to be a pilot.
Okay, but there's a lot of things that I probably couldn't be a pilot because I take antidepressant medication. You know, see, they have a lot of rules about pilots.
Yes.
Now, there's a big difference between a commercial pilot and a pilot working privately somewhere. Like, let's say, flying a small airplane out on somebody's ranch. Then there's not so many rules. There's only commercial airliners.
Yeah.
There's there was a very bad discrimination case here where this one young man took all his flying lessons, made the mistake of saying he was autistic at his flight physical. You know, the FFA required flight physical, and they failed his physical. It was terrible. That happened about 10 years ago. It was here.
Yeah.
But there's other kinds of pilots. You could be a bush pilot, where you're flying and you're working for just somebody privately. Then you don't have such strict rules.
I think what you described as working as a mechanic with the airplane.
But the mechanic for the airplane, they need people to fix airplanes.
Yes.
And then how can he do the flight simulator? He'd have to, if he can't do a computer flight simulator, he probably can't be a pilot. But the fixing airplanes.
Yeah, fixing airplanes and working with airplanes.
But that's something that, and you need people to fix airplanes. It's something that you need.
Yes.
And I'm sure that in Africa you've got, safaris and stuff. They got small planes.
Yes.
And he could work at one of those places and fix airplanes.
Yes.
The commercial airlines, there's a whole bunch of rules. Yeah. But you get something out of the safari company or something, and they've got a small plane, and he can fix it.
Yeah, I like that. You've given me...
I'm trying to, figure out a way to do it.
Yes. Given me an insight of how to direct his interest.
Yeah, if he has that interest. And
in aviation, there's plenty of other jobs in aviation.
Yes. It's not just the pilot.
Correct.
No, but the thing is, let's see how good he is at fixing a motorcycle or something like that, because that would show the aptitude for maybe working on an airplane engine.
So that you actually know if he's good at it.
Yes.
Or is it just that he's, visualizing?
What do you think got the pilot thing started? What got him interested in pilots?
I don't know. He just started talking about it, and he loves, he knows that different types of aeroplanes.
All right.
Different types. You can ask him about astronauts. He will know. So he's fixed. If even on his tablet, he'll be doing most of the things that have to do with aeroplane. Yeah.
So he's into different. Maybe he needs to join an aviation club.
Yes.
That's something he could do to get friends in shared interests.
I like that.
Because there's fixing airplanes. Yes. If you were a more verbal person, you could make reservations for people. Even if you work for a commercial airline on the desk. I'm just visualizing different jobs that might be able to do.
Yeah, he's quite verbal and social. He started talking at 4 years.
Well, you have a lot of people at the airport that push wheelchairs. There's that's entry level job. There's a lot of things like that jobs around airplanes that
air hostess.
So many doors opened
yes,
because of Dr. Temple
yes,
today.
Yes.
But I'm just seeing different things that you could do. You see, I went one time to a safari place. I've been to enough places, out to Australia.
Wow.
I had a chance to go to Darwin, Australia, get on a little plane. We flew 2 miles and landed at a cattle station in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
And I could see him out on that cattle station fixing that plane.
Yeah.
And he could probably fly it out there on that remote cattle station.
Yes.
Yeah. You see, that's something he could do.
Exactly.
It's a private plane. And if you're out at the cattle station, it's do whatever you want out there.
Yes.
Nice.
Have you been to Africa?
Once. I went to South Africa.
Okay.
And we went out to a safari place that was really good.
Yes.
But just once.
Okay.
Wow. So you love traveling, Doctor?
Well, I really like seeing stuff when I travel. And that trip to Australia was really interesting.
Yeah.
Super.
Now, the thing is reading. I'm just thinking about if I was going to hire him. Read the newspaper and tell me what's in it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can do most jobs if you can do that. How good is he at math?
Average.
Just average, but average. Okay. But let's say we fix airplanes. I've got to find out if he has mechanical aptitude.
Yes.
So let's start with motorbikes because they're around.
Yes.
They're there. They're available.
Yeah, true.
Let's see if he could start doing that.
Okay.
So, Doctor, the world is inspired by you. What inspires you?
Well, right now, I'll be 77 this summer, so I want to help the young ones. I can give some ideas to help the young ones get out and have a better life. And I like to do this to a lot of practical information that you can take home and use.
Exactly is what we have discussed today.
Yes.
Just simple things, but it was an eye-opener.
Yes.
It was an eye-opener. Don't you think, Mercy?
Absolutely.
Well, the other thing I probably ought to talk some about is anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I discussed anxiety in detail in this book right here. This book here, I talk about the different kinds of thinkers. And all about jobs for different kinds of thinkers. And this one, I talk about anxiety. And when I entered puberty, I started having panic attacks. Really bad panic attacks.
Yes.
Where I just wanted to stay in my room. And fortunately, I wasn't allowed to do that, stay in my room all the time. Terrible panic attacks. As I went through my 20s, they got worse and worse and worse. And then I got colitis. That's why I was eating yogurt and Jell-O in the movie. Everything I was eating was going through me. And I just horrible, totally turned my health up. And it got worse. They talk about autistic burnout.
Yes.
And I think some of that is just panic attacks. And then later on, we did some research brain scans. And we found that my fear center was much larger than normal. And really overactive. And so any little thing that happens, I'd get a big fear reaction over just nothing. Over just nothing, I get a big fear reaction. And so in here, I describe in my early 30s going on a low dose of antidepressant drugs, which I have been on since my early 30s. And I take an old-fashioned drug, and I strongly recommend if you want to translate a chapter, it's called The Believer in Biochemistry. Right here, there's way too many drugs given out to little kids. Way too many. Oh, it's terrible, the amount of drugs they give to little kids. But in an older person, if I hadn't taken that medication, I don't even know if I'd be here today. My health was so bad.
And Dr. Temple, they say that autistic... suicide in autistic.
Yes, I've read some of those things. And what happened when I went on the meds is the health problems cleared up. The colitis cleared up. And I thought, this is the way people are supposed to feel. Now, I still had some panic attacks. It's sort of like before the medication, my nerves were cycling up here somewhere. Then I took the medication, then they're cycling down here. And they are going to cycle some. And some autistics have this high anxiety and others don't.
Yeah.
Others don't. But I take a low dose, and the big mistake that's made with drugs like Prozac is too high a dose. I have had 100 parents say to me, he was wonderful on a low dose. We doubled the dose, and now he cannot sleep, and he's agitated. It's low dose. It's starter dose or lower. I cannot emphasize enough. It's all explained here. And if you want to take that chapter and translate it, right ahead and do
We'll
it.
do that. We'll definitely
Yeah,
do that.
that, because I'm not just trying to sell the book,
No.
but I think if you got a teenager or an adult, they're thinking about antidepressants, even though this is old, the drugs have not changed.
Not changed.
Drugs have not changed. And then they can read my personal experience here and then make a decision.
Definitely. We'll do that for sure.
Yeah, that chapter, just go ahead. You want
Yes.
to do whatever, translate that chapter.
Definitely.
Because I'm one of the people where the medication saves me. And I've been on the same low dose since my early 30s. So there's a place for conservative, careful use of medication. You know, the really good principle is you try one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And you see what works. And you don't do 2 drugs at the same time. You don't change the school and change the drugs at the same time. You don't know what worked.
Correct.
You don't know what works if you do that.
You have to keep trying the correct combinations. And
And the big mistake that gets made is every time there's a behavior problem, they chuck another drug at it. They give them another drug. I've seen, talk to parents like an 8-year-old, partially verbal, and he's on 7 drugs. And this is terrible. And when I said, now what are they? And half the time the parents can't remember what they are. But then as I talk to them, I find out no thought went into this. It was sort of like throw another drug at it when you have a problem. No thought. Terrible. Well, I hope I've given you some stuff you can take home and
loads, doctor.
Even for my own children.
Yes.
You've really given me a lot. A lot of insights. Even understanding the sensory issues like the balloon why is.
Yeah.
And the parts they can take. And maybe we are talking about talent. Where they are talented. Maybe the only disadvantage is being in Africa where there are really no opportunities. Like here, there is a lot of community work where it's driven by community. And there is
this is where what happens. I can remember here when the parent group started. I'm old enough to remember that. And, Mother had no parent group when she started with me. They didn't exist. And there were people like Ruth Sullivan who were spearheading and getting the parent groups going.
I think for us now, our parent groups are more focused on awareness. They have not gone to the next level of really...
No, the thing that our parent groups were focused on was creating services.
That's the key word.
And that's what I remember Ruth Sullivan back in the 80s sitting down with a bunch of parents. It was at one of our, the National Autism Conference, explaining to parents how to get together and organize and develop services.
No, that's where we have a difference. Ours is usually centered on creating awareness, but not service-centered. And of course, one of the reasons is the financial aspects. So they know this is the services that are required, but they are not able to.
Well, let's just look at, we have some really low-income areas in the U.S. Where the only support group they've got is their church. That's all they've got. Really low-income areas. This is why I thought up the thing with the grandmothers for the little kid, because you can do it. That's something they could do on their own. They're working on just in the community, getting jobs. Then you have very severe ones where they can't get the baby problems under control. That's extremely difficult to deal with. Now, your children right now, can they do stuff like grocery shop?
One of them
can.
Yeah. The other 2, we try we give them, when we go to the supermarket with them, we give them some money and then they take what they need. So we go with them to the supermarket, and if it's a soda, they take and then they buy. But they don't know. They just know this is money, 100.
Well, you see, and they have to understand that money had to be earned somehow. That money, the bank doesn't just have it and give it to you.
Yes.
You see, this is where I think for a lot of kids showing, where does this... here is our bills, our electrical bill, our bill for our mobile phone, our bill at rent, whatever, things like that. Parents have to work to make that money. And I would just show them the bills.
Correct.
Where you're just doing it really. So nothing's abstract. Abstract doesn't work.
Correct.
Well, my 2 sons still, I think they have an intellectual disability. they're not at that level to understand. Like, for instance, when you are coming, I was asking the one who is a little verbal, what would you like me to bring for you from the US? And he has no clue of understanding what that means. So he just said, I don't want. Clearly, because he really didn't understand the question. So intellectually, they are still not at the level of...
what would his reading level be at? What would be that child's reading level?
One of them can read CVC words.
Just like...
Really just very, very basic.
Just a few words.
Just a few words, yes.
Yeah, I have to have to try to get an idea of their level and what they could do. Okay, you got one kid read the newspaper and tell you what's in it. Okay, that's high level reading.
Yes, that's high level reading.
So how do we fix this, doctor? Suppose, given this situation.
Well, this is where parents get together, and they did in the U.S. is they presented in Congress. They went and visited the politicians, the congressmen, senators. Some of them knew somebody, so they went to Washington, D.C., and they went and visited them in their offices. And so, that's what they did. See, things like our American with Disabilities Act. That's where you work with legislators. See, that's one route. There's some stuff you can maybe do in the community.
Sure. Policy is important.
Yeah. But what drove a lot of the policy, parents, and then people with disabilities. This is what got what we call ADA passed, Americans with Disabilities Act. That's what got all the wheelchair ramps in. And the good thing is, I noticed how that's been copied around the world. I've been to China. I've been to Japan. I've been to lots of different countries. And they've got wheelchair ramps. And that started with our Americans with Disabilities Act. And it was something that was something people could do easily. They're not very expensive. The new construction, it costs nothing to put in a wheelchair ramp if it's in new construction. But I've noticed all around the world they've got that.
But doctor, you drive.
I drive.
Yes.
And you're going to have to spend a lot more time practicing.
Yes.
A lot more time practicing. I start out in the middle of a horse pasture, lurching around. You start in an open field or an open parking lot. And so you can lurch the length of this room without having an accident. That's where you start. And then my aunt's mailbox on her ranch on a dirt road was 6 kilometers away. So every day, 6 kilometers up, 6 kilometers back. Practice in a totally safe place before you do traffic.
Wow.
That's what you do for driving. Because you've got to get steering and brakes and the gas pedal into motor memory. So it's going to take much more practice. And you start in the middle of the parking lot, the middle of an open field where there's nothing to hit. And you might do 20 minutes a day for a month in the parking lot.
Wow.
And then you carefully go out on the deserted road.
So persistence, patience.
A lot more practice. And one of the mistakes we have with our classes for teaching driving is they go too fast.
Right. You need to slow.
I would want to have them do all the practice in the open parking lots, the open fields, before you even do driver's ed.
Correct.
Because I was 400 kilometers of driving to the mailbox before I did any traffic.
Correct.
30, that would be, I've got to think about it in kilometers, like 72 kilometers a week. Just going to the mailbox.
But then that made you learn driving.
That's right. And I learned driving in a really safe place.
Yes.
And the middle of the horse pastures where I started. I see my aunt's light blue patio gate. We did not start there. The truck was a standard transmission, and I would have broken the gate. It would have lurched forward and...
Correct.
No, middle of the pastures where we started. And then the truck, I had to learn the clutch.
Correct.
And it was lurch forward and stall.
Because it was that time manual car.
Oh, it was a manual. It was a manual car. It was an old pickup truck. Manual. But there's nothing to hit in the middle of the horse pasture. And the horses were gone. They took off. So they were totally safe. But where there's nothing to hit, that's where you start. And much more practice. Because to deal with the multitasking issue, you've got to get that driving into motor memory before you go near any traffic.
Yeah.
That's a good insight.
And then parents are afraid to start. Well, you find a place where there's nothing to hit. That's where you start.
Correct.
I can see where Ricky will start
Yeah.
planning to drive in the farm.
Ah, so
Yes.
nice. So, doctor, you love animals. You just love them. How did you develop? How did you know that you love animals?
I had to be exposed to them.
Oh, okay.
I had to be exposed. Now, I was exposed to musical instruments. I could never figure out how to play them. I had a little flute. I couldn't figure out how to do that. But you don't know what a kid's going to like unless you expose them to things. You've got to get exposed.
Get it.
Talking about love for animals, one of the therapists recommended is animal therapy. Do you think that being autistic helped you to connect?
Well, because I'm not a verbal thinker. I don't think in words. Animals don't think in words. So the first thing I looked at is what cattle were seeing. Like an animal got afraid of something. What was it seeing? Maybe a shadow or a puddle. So I looked at what the cattle were seeing, which was a real new concept at the time. And some kids have really done well with therapeutic riding. And I was just at the rural place that had no services. A church group started therapeutic riding center. Okay. You see, it was just something, they took an old barn and fixed it up, and they did it really economically, but it was really economic, but it was decent.
Get it.
And see, it was just in the neighborhood. You see, the other thing is, there's a lot of retired, like in this country here, a lot of countries, there's a lot of retired people. These are the perfect people to work with the young autistic kids. To set up a therapeutic riding. They need things to do.
So you need to get this community together, parents and these people, so that we can build in a system for these children and they can help them out.
And then some of the ones that are non-speaking, that we have some programs where they work in greenhouses.
Okay.
There's one place that they sell hundreds and hundreds of poinsettias as a Christmas plant every year.
So many opportunities that they have. So many things that we got to know today.
But they just started this therapeutic riding. We've got so many retirees that are bored.
Correct.
And doing things like setting up some of these activities.
Yeah. Don't give up. Find ways to do what you actually want to do.
Well, I remember Ruth Sullivan when this would have been very early 80s. Talking to a bunch of parents about how to organize groups and get things done.
Wow. Such an amazing discussion that we have had today. We are truly, all pleasure is ours, Doctor, that you have given us such beautiful insights. Thank you for that.
Okay, very welcome.